This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, the Quarantine Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Nermeen Sheikh. One of the most remarkable moments of Wednesday's inaugural ceremony came from the inaugural poet, Amanda Gorman of Los Angeles. She's the youngest poet in U.S. history to address a presidential inauguration. She became the Youth Poet Laureate of Los Angeles at the age of 16 in 2014, and then the first National Youth Poet Laureate. The 22-year-old poet read her poem, "The Hill We Climb." She finished it right after the riot at the Capitol earlier this month. Her words captured the nation. This is Amanda Gorman.
Mr. President, Dr. Biden, Madam Vice President, Mr. Emhoff, Americans, and the world. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace, and the norms and notions of what just is isn't always just is. And yet the dawn is hours before we knew it. Somehow we do it. Somehow we've weathered and witnessed a nation that isn't broken, but simply unfinished. We, the successors of a country and a time where a skinny black girl descended from slaves and raised by a single mother can dream of becoming president, only to find herself reciting for one. And yes, we are far from polished, far from pristine, but that doesn't mean we are striving to form a union that is perfect. We are striving to forge our union with purpose, to compose a country committed to all cultures, colors, characters, and conditions of man. And so we lift our gazes not to what stands between us, but what stands before us. We close the divide because we know to put our future first, we must first put our differences aside. We lay down our arms so we can reach out our arms to one another. We seek harm to none and harmony for all. Let the globe, if nothing else, say this is true. That even as we grieved, we grew, that even as we hurt, we hoped, that even as we tired, we tried, that we'll forever be tied together, victorious, not because we will never again know defeat, but because we will never again sow division. Scripture tells us to envision that everyone shall sit under their own vine and fig tree, and no one shall make them afraid. If we're to live up to our own time, then victory won't lie in the blade, but in all the bridges we've made. That is the promised glade, the hill we climb, if only we dare it, because being American is more than a pride we inherit. It's the past we step into and how we repair it. We've seen a force that would shatter our nation rather than share it, would destroy our country if it meant delaying democracy. And this effort very nearly succeeded. But while democracy can be periodically delayed, it can never be permanently defeated. In this truth, in this faith we trust, for while we have our eyes on the future, history has its eyes on us. This is the era of just redemption. We feared it in its inception. We did not feel prepared to be the heirs of such a terrifying hour, but within it we found the power to author a new chapter, to offer hope and laughter to ourselves. So, while once we asked, how could we possibly possibly prevail over catastrophe. Now we assert, how could catastrophe possibly prevail over us? We will not march back to what was, but move to what shall be, a country that is bruised but whole, benevolent but bold, fierce and free. We will not be turned around or interrupted by intimidation, because we know our inaction and inertia will be the inheritance of the next generation. Our blunders become their burdens, but one thing is certain. If we merge mercy with might and might with right, then love becomes our legacy and change our children's birthright. So let us leave behind a country better than the one we were left. With every breath from my bronze-pounded chest, we will raise this wounded world into a wondrous one. We will rise from the gold-limbed hills of the West. We will rise from the wind-swept Northeast, where our forefathers first realized revolution. We will rise from the lake-rimmed cities of the Midwestern states. We will rise from the sun-baked South. We will rebuild, reconcile, and recover in every known nook of our nation, in every corner called our country. Our people, diverse and beautiful, will emerge battered and beautiful. When day comes, we step out of the shade, aflame and unafraid. The new dawn blooms as we free it. For there is always light, if only we're brave enough to see it, if only we're brave enough to be it.
22-year-old Amanda Gorman, the youngest inaugural poet in U.S. history. This is Democracy Now! As we end our conversation with Dr. Cornel West, professor of the practice of public philosophy at Harvard University, and award-winning journalist Maria Hinojosa. In the last few minutes we have, Professor West, you were in Charlottesville, Virginia, when the Klan marched, when the white supremacists marched. Amanda was writing her poem through the riot, the white supremacist attack on the Capitol. Your final thoughts?
Just that we say to Brother Biden, when he stood on the floor of the Senate November 18th, 1993, and said, these young black folk are predators on the street beyond the pale to be taken out of society. If you're going to talk about empathy, you ought to extend your empathy to the cousins of the brilliant visionary poet Amanda on that street. They're human beings, even when they're incarcerated. Extend your sympathy to the immigrants trying to make their way, often coming into a country that used to be theirs, our Mexican brothers. Extend your sympathy to poor, no matter what color, working class, no matter what color. Yes, Jewish folk hated in Spain, hated in France, Palestinians hated on the West Bank. Where is your concrete empathy and compassion and acknowledging common humanity? That's the kind of pressure that he's going to have to expect from love warriors, freedom fighters like both myself and the Amanda Gormans, with memories of Sojourner Truth and Harriet Tubman and Toni Morrison and John Coltrane's Love Supreme.
And Maria, your final thoughts?
Wow, just also Frederick Douglass and Ida B. Wells, my founding fathers and founding mothers, right? That's why we do this. Look, the only thing that I'm trying to stay inspired, I really am, because otherwise what happens? So we just have to realize that those of us who have this understanding of what democracy looks like, got to deepen it. Okay, sometimes you can chill, you got to take a, relax, whatever, I understand, but we deepen it. That's why I love being on with both you, Amy, who I've known for years, and Brother West, is because there's such a humanity here. And I think that if Joe Biden and Kamala can do something, it would be to actually try to humanize, as Cornel was saying, the brothers and sisters of our dear poet, of Amanda, of so many, right? To humanize those who were not born here like myself. So this is our challenge. As I tell my students, I'm about to start teaching any minute now at Barnard, and I'll tell my students, there are some days when you cannot, in fact, be that unifier. So don't try it on those days. On the days when you can have dialogue, yes. But you know what? At the same time now, maybe this isn't a time for that right now. Give ourselves a little bit of a break also, to take critical pause for what we're seeing and to understand, finally, we are much stronger than we think. We never thought we could make it this far. But also, we did not all make it. We did not all make it. And so for that, I'm very sorry. But I'm looking at the sun, and I'm incredibly hopeful. Nature is what grounds me, and I hope it grounds the both of you, too. It's the three of you. It's been such a pleasure to be with all of you.